Hi everyone, this is Caitlin Barlow representing Team 1 for our Week 2 Tableau presentation. And first I'm going to show you this, I guess customized is the right word, spreadsheet that I made to just hold the data that I was going to use this week. I just find that to be easier. I actually went through all 129 schools, I think it is, from all the states and found out their accreditation, their student populations, in-state and out-of-state tuition, and then populated this spreadsheet with the information we already had about distance from the zip code 10031 and what kind of institution they were, four-year private, profit, not-for-profit, public, and built out this spreadsheet and took it over to Tableau because these are the things we're going to focus on for this week because we decided to wait until next week until we had more information on the competencies, and we're going to use that for our grand finale. So for this week, we are going to use that spreadsheet. I already brought it into Tableau. And I wanted to specifically focus on accreditations this week. So I'm going to kind of build out this master list first, just so we have a full list of the accreditations, whether they are AACSB or ABCSP or none, depending on the situation. First, I'm going to bring accreditation to columns and name to rows. Then I'm going to drag accreditation to text, and that fills in the actual name of the accreditation instead of just having that ABC in there. And then take accreditation to color. And I'm actually going to edit the colors just because whatever colors you decide on for this, it carries over throughout the Tableau workspace, and I just feel like it looks nicer to, pick ones from the beginning that you think are gonna go nicely together throughout the presentation. And now we have this master list here of accreditations that I'm going to name accreditations list, and we can get started on actually visualizing this data. So for this sheet, I'm going to drag, very similarly to the first one, accreditation over to columns, and then measure name to rows, and count to rows. You can kind of see it. I guess I should have told you from the beginning. This is going to end up being a bar graph of the counts of accreditation over the 129 schools. And similarly to the last one, we're going to drag accreditation to color. And here are the colors I picked, like the last ones, like I mentioned. And then count to label. And that'll tell us exactly how many we have. So here you can see that we have 63 AACSB schools, 18 ABCSP schools, and 47 that were none. And going through, each school was interesting. If you just Google, is this school AACSB certified? You have to be careful because they're a little tricky. Sometimes the establishment or the university won't have an actual accreditation, but they will list on their website that they adhere to guidelines established by the AACSB. And by doing that, they, make it seem like, or with a Google search, it looks like they're AASBC certified, but they're actually not. They just follow the guidelines. So anyways, 63 schools out of the 129 have this AACSB certification. Fewer schools, 18 schools have the ACBSP certification and 47 have none. And now we are going to make a similar one. So because I'm not changing a whole lot, I'm going to double click on the sheet that I renamed down there at accreditation count and click duplicate. And then I'm going to take state to columns. And now you can kind of see which states have which accreditations. You can kind of look at it like that. You can see that New York has 24, the most accreditations for the AACSB. However, it also has the most none schools. It's probably just because we have the most schools with the data built out for those. And you can also tell, there weren't very many Delaware schools, therefore there aren't very many Delaware schools that have the AACSB certification, across the board, which makes sense. If you don't have a big, set of data for that state, then it makes sense there aren't a lot of accreditations in that state. So the last thing I'm going to do with the accreditations is I'm going to drag the zip code over. I'm going to make a map of accreditation so you can see that by state. I drag over zip code and then I put accreditations in color, and here you can see that here that helps. It helps you see in the area in which we're focusing on where schools are that have which designation or don't have the accreditation. So for this, I'm actually probably going to take accreditation over to filters and take none out just because that's not very helpful. So here you can see, the blue schools are all the AACSB accredited schools, and the green is the ABCSP schools. For some reason, the further out ones, the ones that are more further out, I should say, are the AACSB accredited schools, which are interesting. Of course, there are some here in New York too, but you really don't see many green out in this, the further reaches of New York, Massachusetts. It's mostly just blue. Okay. And then our next thing that we were looking at this week is we were looking at tuition and population on the map as well, based on all these schools. So I'm going to similarly drag over a zip code. This is student populations that we're going to look at first on a map. So I populated all the zip codes for the 129 schools. Then I'm going to bring over student population to size. And you see they kind of change. I'm going to go ahead and bump up this size again just so you can see a little bit better. And then we're going to take school or school name over to color. And here you can see, what schools are larger, what schools are smaller, within our surveyed area. And then I'm going to rename this student population map. And you can kind of play with this one like you can the rest of our visualizations as well. Zoom in, see, what schools are just in the, tri-state area, what ones are, down in Maryland. Like you can see down here, this is probably the largest school with at University of Maryland Global Campus. And it's just fun to see, what schools have the biggest populations and also offer these programs. And then, again, like I said, we're gonna do the tuitions as well. So similarly, we're gonna drag over zip code. Then instead of population this time, we're gonna do in-state tuition to size. Bump the size up a little bit. Name to color. And you can see what schools offer the largest, or what schools offer this program that have the largest tuition for in-state students. And you can kind of hover over it and it'll tell you, for example, University of Massachusetts Amherst, $2,082 per credit hour of in-state tuition. Down here, you can see some of the larger ones. Adelphi, $1,345 for in-state tuition. And then it's just fun to compare these to, actually, if you drag name to label, that makes it easier to see as well. You can see some of these larger, or these schools further out. It's easier to tell, kind of where you are. And you can do that as well with the in-state, or excuse me, out-of-state tuition. And it's, easy to look back and forth and kind of compare, see, what schools that are offering Masters of Accounting programs, MBAs in accounting programs are offering what, or are offering these things for that price. So I'm going to have to add all members again and add name to label. And it's the same thing. And it makes sense, like the last largest bubble that I pulled up for the last sheet, about University of Massachusetts Amherst. It makes sense that their out-of-state tuition would be very large as well. The last one for in-state was about $2,000. Out-of-state tuition, it's $4,000 per credit hour. So that's very expensive. And again, you can zoom in and kind of see how expensive each school is based on the size of the dot. And I thought it was interesting. A lot of the schools actually have the same price for in and out of state. So these are just some of the visualizations we were playing with this week. I think that's pretty much it. And next week we are going to focus on our competencies for our grand finale. Thanks for watching.